Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Tuesday edition, Taco Trivia Tuesday for me. Hope you had a good day out there today. And today's show was actually driven by a viewer comment. Yesterday, we were talking with Don Fran about tariffs and his thoughts on where these markets may be headed. And of course, it was nice to see difference of opinions on these programs. And actually, he and I were pretty much in same page with regards to where we thought tariffs were going to go and the impacts on the market. But one of the questions that came up was about luxury goods. So I thought, well, let's do that as a show today. So here's my graphic to start. It says the end of luxury goods with a big question mark. And I do think that handbag does have put both handles on there for you, Lisa. I asked Midjourney to create me some really high-end graphics and fashion stuff, and that's the picture it gave me. But here's the question that came in. It says, what impact do you think tariffs will have on luxury goods? Is it the end of luxury goods? And that was from Tim. I think the answer for me on this one's very simple. It's a one-word answer, and the answer is no. It's not the end of luxury goods. Absolutely not. There are people, yesterday I showed my disdain for anyone who's going to pay $28,000 for a handbag. I think is just foolish. It's a colossal waste of money, but I've also been raised differently. I've been raised to value money, be frugal, don't spend frivolously. And there are people that have more money. They make more money in a second than I'll make in a decade. And those people, who cares? It doesn't matter to them whether that handbag goes from $28,000 to $50,000. They still want to have that name, that brand, its status, its image, whereas I'll be the guy in the Old Navy t-shirt that cost me $4 on sale. But that's just the difference between people. So I thought it might be kind of interesting to go and look at different luxury brands and what they may look like. So I went through a whole list of different companies that I thought represented that luxury brand space to see if a couple things. Number one, are they being beaten down as we speak, right? Are we seeing that exodus away from luxury brands? Number two, might there be some opportunity here? Now, again, I don't think all brands are created equal. There's many, 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 many different brands out there, all with different things to offer, strengths and weaknesses. But I guess I'll start at the top and work my way down with big name brands you might recognize on this list. So let's start there. I will go through my list. Number one, people can afford luxury goods. Well, exactly, Garfield. That's my thought. And maybe we'll discuss this at the end, maybe how tariffs might impact their bottom line. But again, these companies, I'll be fine. I saw an interview once and I forgot exactly. I think it was the CEO of, it was one of the really high-end handbag names. And he was being interviewed and they said, you've raised your prices on these handbags from like $2,000 to $8,000. When are you going to stop? And he says, when people stop buying them, which is, it's terrible, but it's true, right? They'll just keep raising it until they see their sales decline, then they'll back it down a little bit and sell their $20,000 handbags. So I'm going to pronounce this wrong because I boycotted French years ago. I took 3 years of French, and then after being in Paris a couple of times, I said I'm never speaking French again. Here is number one, Hermes. Hermes, Hermes, I think it's Hermes. Let's look at RMS. So this is a pretty big French fashion line, been around for a long, long time. And you look over here at their, no problem, Garfield, got it. The price chart here of Hermes or Hermes, whatever you want to pronounce, I'm going to call it Hermes because that's just the way I pronounce it. From that peak that we saw back in February, it's down 20%. But when you look out here, bigger picture, it's actually one of those brands that's done very well. Honestly, this looks like a good buying opportunity. It's making higher highs, higher lows. This looks pretty unaffected by the tariff discussion. Granted, it's down 20% off its peak here. But all in all, this one still looks good. I would say uptrend and certainly in the buy category. Now, there's many others we're going to get to here that have a very different picture. This next one has a whole bunch of brands tied to it. So you see you've got Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton. The ticker symbol is LVMHF. Now, these guys own a ton of different companies. You're talking Louis Vuitton, Givenchy, Dior, Fendi, Mac, Tiffany, Tag. I actually went with my girlfriend this weekend she needed to go to Sephora to go shopping. I don't know if you guys have ever endured that torture, but you walk into Sephora over here at South Coast Plaza. I don't think I've ever been in a store that was that crowded outside of a Black Friday or Christmas sale. It was absolutely incredible how busy that store was. So yeah, tariffs may be hurting some aspects of their business, but most of these fashion brands aren't isolated and trading under just one brand. So for example, you're not seeing Dior publicly traded. Dior is part of this huge conglomerate of, 50, 60. I think Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton is 75 international brands all lumped together. Why was it torture? It was just chaos for me, This is going to sound vain on my part, Margaret, but I think that people are beautiful as they are. And when I see people with injected lips and injected foreheads and so much makeup that it looks like a pancake with gravy on or with maple syrup all over it, I just find that somewhat unattractive. But that's just me. I like natural beauty. Certainly, I think makeup can be used sparingly, but maybe it's social media influencers and stuff out there. It was caked on. I was worried that I'd bump into somebody and it would stain my shirt with their makeup on. So that was why it was just torture. And it was so packed. I literally was bumping elbows all through that store. There's probably at least 100 people in that store, and probably 30 employees. So it was crazy. You walk and there's 150 different types of lipstick and 300 different types of concealers. And it's just the amount of money that you ladies pay to look beautiful. I think you look beautiful as you are. Granted, certainly there are times where you want to have a little makeup and look a little bit better, but I am not a fan of heavy makeup. I'd rather go all natural. But that's just me. Let's see, who did I offend on that one? Affluent customers are cutting back because falling and impacting their wealth. Yeah, possibly. I stopped using makeup when I started having hot I guess you're past that, the dating phase, right? When you're in the dating phase, every girl wants to look really good, and it's just surprising, especially where I live. Maybe that's just a different take. I know some of you might be in the Midwest where it's not as vain as California is, particularly Southern California where I'm at. The vanity it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Oh, Katuta, Sephora's my playground. I loved it because of the scenery. Honestly, it was an amazing people watching place, but it not my bag. And I just felt bad that I feel like women are forced to believe that they have to put all this stuff on their faces and look, and you overdo it, you're going to looking like a clown. It's like finding that happy medium between what you're given and what you want to be. Good for you, Aga. Love it. All natural. Okay, sorry if I offended anyone there. To each their own. We all have different things. Anyway, so we went to Moet Hennessy and Louis Vuitton. Let's check that one out because this one is really diversified. You have, like I say, I think 75 brands in the Louis Vuitton network. Let's go LVMHF. Okay, now this is interesting, right? This to me is a very interesting chart. So we talked about the sell-off here in the equity markets really starting January-ish, right? We were down for the year about 7% on the S&P, but the tariff talk really scared a lot of people. And I'm zooming in on the chart here to show you from 2021 through today. You'll notice that really since mid-2023, this stock has not done well at all. It peaked out. I'll get you an exact number here. It's tough because it's at the top of that chart, but from peak to trough, we are presently down roughly 44% on that conglomerate of, let's see, went from over $1,000, just over $1,000. I think today that would put us down about 44% on this one. Knowing that you have that many fashion brands, and granted, some of them aren't super high-end fashion. I mean, Dior, yes, and some of the other Givenchy, okay, they're all right, not super high-end, but this begs the question of, is this one a buy? Does this get down to a point where it becomes an attractive purchase based off its decline off the top, knowing that it has all these brands in it? And I would argue yes, although it still has a price tag of $540. That's a pretty substantial price amount. But my guess is there's very few shares outstanding of this brand as well. So again, it's not just the price that we have to look at, it's how many shares outstanding. And if you want to, we could definitely take a look at that. You just let me know. So right off the bat, the trend on Hermes is way better, but it's also a little bit more limited. Hermes is its own brand. Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton is 75 brands. And that begs the question for me anyway, is what do I feel more comfortable with? A singular brand or a portfolio of brands. And I would argue for myself, I'd want a portfolio of brands because fashion's not my thing, style is not my thing, cosmetics is not my thing. Therefore, I'd rather have a basket of them. So this, what we're just looking at here, LV, MHF, is essentially an ETF. I think you could say it's an ETF for high fashion. All right, next on our list. Kering. All right, so as we run through these brands, some of them are going to be doing very different things. This one is a lot of leather goods, eyewear, jewelry. So you have like Gucci, Bottega Veneta, Alexander McQueen, Balenciaga, which I think is an absolute joke. I went to shop for a pair of shoes the other day. Balenciaga shoes were $500, and the shoe style itself was just ridiculous. It's like someone took a tube sock and attached a shoe bottom to it, and that was pretty much it for $500. Anyway, let's go look at KER. This one, far worse. I mean, this guy here looks like that death spiral that you just don't want to be holding security at that point. From its peak that we saw back in that same period of time, right around August of 2021, Kering is down 80%. Now, this also does have a nice portfolio, a basket of goods that it's invested in, which is nice, right? It's good to have that little basket portfolio. However, something is fundamentally wrong here when you're down 80%. I could see being down 50% in this market. Yeah, right? Margaret says, nice down channel. Absolutely. I mean, it's terrible if you're long this thing, but if you're a short seller, this is absolutely fantastic. And let me go look at KER because I'm curious to see what the short interest is on this one. My guess is the short interest is probably going to be pretty high. Give me just a second to bring up my Yahoo Finance here so I can pull up the short interest on some of these. So KER, yeah, I might not even get this one. There we go. It's international. It's international security on the Paris Stock Exchange. Let's go look at that one. And I was going to go look at shares outstanding, so statistics. And short interest. So no, it doesn't disclose the short interest or short ratio, and that may be because it's listed on the Paris Stock Exchange or the Euronext. Most of these are Euronext stocks because they're European. Outstanding shares, 122 million. What was the outstanding shares of LVMHF? That was a very expensive security. We'll see what that number is. All right, let's go LVMHF. I thought I had it up there. This bad boy, oh, actually, it's got quite a few. About 500 million outstanding shares. 500 million outstanding shares. So that's definitely a lot less than the billions that you see for Intel and Apple, but still quite a lot. I mean, market cap on this bad boy is way up there. You're dealing with a pretty significant market cap of about $300 billion. All right, next on my list. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not my area of expertise, but I thought it might be of some interest to you. Burberry, a company that made themselves absolutely famous with a specific pattern that everyone seems to love. And actually, I got to say, I think it's a cool looking pattern, but that's their brand. And this is a singular brand, right? We talk about some of these diversified conglomerates. This one is just a singular brand. And let's go look at BRBY. Don't get it confused with BlackBerry. There's Burberry, and we'll go stocks. This is going to be, let's click the US out of there. There we go, Burberry Group. I think I'm looking at that one there. So similar picture. I mean, Burberry really had a fall from grace. It was up over $2,600 per share, and now it's trading at $656 with no stock split. I mean, that is a decline of 75%. And I know that Burberry is a popular one. I know people love the Burberry clothing and the handbags and things like that, but taking a peek at the longer term picture here, I'll go and do a weekly time frame. I'm not a fan of that one. Right? I don't think I would be touching Burberry. It's at all-time lows. Except the low we had back here in September of last year was lower, but headed towards all-time lows. I would look at this one and say, nope, not interested. I'd move on. At this point, if I had to buy one, it would only be Hermes or the Louis Vuitton one, which we'll look at here in a second. All right, your next victim, really, because some of these have significant sell-offs, is very similar to the Louis Vuitton one. This is Tapestry. Tapestry is more... Coach, Kate Spade, Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, labels like that is what is in Tapestry. Here is their symbol, TPR, and I guess I can go NYSE. This one's certainly better because it hasn't been in that prolonged downtrend for years. Let me make sure I got the right symbol. TPR. Yep, we're good. Just making sure I had the right one. Sometimes they will multiple list. Yeah, Burberry looks awful. That chart looked really bad. I wouldn't touch that one. And Oliver, we did look at that Louis Vuitton. It was second on the list here. I've got a few more to go, and then if you want, we can go back. People. Yeah, right, Big Gabe. It was people watching. It totally was people watching. So Tapestry, hey, other than the giant pullback we've had over the past couple weeks, this has been about 2 months worth of significant pullback, and it's down off of that peak, only 29%. And keep in mind, most of the other symbols we've looked at are down more than that, way more than that. So this actually looks all right. Granted, it's a significant pullback, and I do like the fact that this one's diversified. Coach bags are, man, I go to, one of the girls I went to high school with, she is a lawyer, and she's addicted to Coach bags. She's like, every year I'll spend $4,000 on Coach bags. I'm like, what? That's your $4,000? How about every year you take a $4,000 trip to a new country? Now that's rewarding. Oliver, no. I wouldn't put Lululemon as a luxury brand. It is interesting, though, in kind of looking and doing a little bit of research on this, because part of the discussion we're going to have in just a minute is, does the impact of this openness and now what seems to be a more pronounced trade war where China's going, hey, look, guys, you don't need these luxury brands. You can buy directly from us. I saw a video yesterday. The girl was going, you want to buy these Lulu leggings for $100 or buy them from our factory direct for $10 a piece? Same materials, made in the same factory, just doesn't have the Lululemon sticker on it. I know what I would be doing, personally. I don't care about labels. I saw someone post yesterday, I'm not going to wear something unless I'm paid to advertise it, right? Why should I advertise for free? You notice most of my stuff, I don't have any branding or labels on it. I try not to. I don't wear leggings, but I do go to the gym. So it's funny, you were making fun of Don yesterday for the spider shirt he was wearing. I was actually wearing spider pants. And the reason I was wearing spider pants is I was at Costco and they had spider pants, which are great athletic wear, for I think they were $14. I'm like, give me one in each color, and I wear them to the gym all the time. It's my workout clothes. So yeah, I don't wear leggings. I wear sweatpants that might be a little snugger than pajama pants, but yeah, I'm not wearing leggings. You're not getting me in spandex. Sorry, that's a visual no one wants to see. All right, next on my list, ticker symbols MONC. This is Montclair. Now, Montclair is another one of those, I would say it's a Milan-based one, but it's more, I guess I would say glasses and handbags and perfumes. It is kind of under their one label, like a Burberry, and this is MONC. Now, let me zoom out here just to get the bigger picture. This one, I have to say, interests me. And the reason I say it interests me is I don't care for the company. I don't care for what they do. It doesn't make a difference. But look at the price chart. I find this extremely interesting, particularly for those of you who might be spread traders or looking for range bound. I'm going to put a blue line on what I feel to be the top for the past 2 years and a blue line on the bottom. So you've got a channel on this Montclair between $70 and $45. That's a $25 range-bound channel, and right now we're near the dead low of it. From a trading perspective, great. I don't know if I would, this is a puffer jackets. That makes sense because there was a period of time that Italy was huge on these puffer jackets. I think they started that whole trend that slowly bled over to America. It's funny how fashion starts over in Europe and then works its way here. Every time I came back from Italy, people were like, wow, you're like, what are you wearing? You look weird. And a couple years later, people are like, hey, got that same glasses you had? Like, yeah, I was ahead of the curve. So I only like this from a potential buying opportunity at 45. The liquidity is probably not there. This is on the Milan Stock Exchange, which is a pretty weak stock exchange around the world, but nice range-bound market for anybody that may have access to options there and be able to utilize that one. Now, let's go American-based. What do we got? Of course, you have to throw Estee Lauder on this list, and Estee Lauder, as you know, is also, I would say mainly cosmetics. You have, MAC and Clinique. there's high-end cosmetics there. I'm sure there's some other clothing brands as well, but let's look at Old L. They should change their name to OHNO, which is Oh No. Terrible looking chart. I mean, this is really bad. Probably the worst one we've seen out of all of these. And for the viewer or the listeners on the podcast, I'll walk you through what it looks like. But essentially, what we have is a high back in January of 2022 of $374 for Estee Lauder. And now you're at $54.41. And I'll zoom out a little bit more. At least I'll scroll back here to, the 2000s. Let's put a weekly on here to see what that looks like. I mean, it really had a huge run. There you go. The weekly's a lot better. It had a huge run from 2009. The market lows, it was trading about $11, peaked out at $375, and now you're back down at $50. So some of these, I would argue Estee Lauder is one of those brands that's got such heritage and pedigree and reputation, although it's it's one brand, probably not going to go away. And there will come a point where Estee Lauder or the Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, or some of these other ones will be worth their goodwill plus book value, or just book value, right? What is the cost of them to sell off their assets? Now, the big question for me is who's going to make the change, right? So the question that initially came in from Tim, and I've got a couple other names in here as well, but I'll move on. The question from Tim is the end of luxury brands? Absolutely not a chance. And I think, if anything, it's going to give some people an opportunity to buy into some of these brands at much lower prices. The question I have, which I don't know, time will tell, is how impactful is the current situation, not only from a tariff perspective, but also from an awareness perspective. So, for example, I've been using Alibaba for years. When I'm buying things in bulk or I'm looking for something specific, I'll use Alibaba. You have Shine, you have, there is Temu. There's all these companies popping up that can now sell those exact same items without the labels. And yeah, you might pay a couple bucks to ship it here, but those items are gonna be a lot cheaper than buying them. Now, you could also, I imagine that because of this, what will probably happen is there will be a Temu or a Shine type of company that's actually high-end stuff. I don't know if I think there was one called Rose Gal. I actually bought some. Sheen. Thank you, Oliver. Shine, Sheen. There was a company I bought from years ago called Rose Gal. They had a bunch of really, I think you've seen some of my shirts I wear from them, like the flower patterns, kind of flamboyant ones. Yes, they're men's shirts. They sell men's clothing too. But those shirts ended up being like, I don't know, $8 or $9 a piece. You pay for some shipping, and I love them. I think they're fantastic shirts. They're really thin. They're not high quality, but I think they look cool and they fit me. So there will probably come a point where I will look more towards that, right? I don't like cheap clothing that falls apart in 3 days, but I also, I'm not going to spend money and buy myself some Dolce & Gabbana stuff. Now, those days have passed. When I lived in Italy, I do own Dolce & Gabbana. I do own Prada. I do own Gucci. I got a Gucci tuxedo. The sad part is, some of you might be able to relate to this. I have a Gucci tuxedo that when I bought it was in 2002, 2003. Man, amazing. A $3,000 tuxedo I got for like 3,000 euro tuxedo I got for 900 euros. And then because the exchange rate ended up being like a $700 Gucci tuxedo. Awesome. Needless to say, as we get older, we tend to fill out in places that we didn't fill out before. No, sorry, Lisa. I couldn't fit in that thing. It's like shoving 10 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag. It was not work for me anymore. I still have it with the hope that maybe I'll get back in shape in that little midriff section, which just has my belt screaming when I try to button those pants. Maybe that'll get back to normal. But, that was back when I was in Milan and I was like traveling around talking to banks and brokerages. So I felt like I kind of had to have a little bit of fashion flair to me. Now, if I want a suit, if I want a really nice, perfect suit for me, I'll fly to Thailand, I'll buy a whole portfolio of clothing, custom tailored to me, and I'll come back as opposed to that. But a lot of this stuff, a lot of these names, Coach handbags or, nice shoes. They had knockoff Jimmy Choo shoes on the streets of Thailand last time I was there. All the clothing that these companies make, a lot of it's made in China, Thailand, Vietnam. A lot of it. One of the specials I saw was literally the guy walking through and explaining every component that goes into these handbags. He says, we get this leather from this place in Italy. We get this thread from a place in Paris. It's the Cadillac of threads. We import that into China. We make the bags, and then we sell them at a huge price. But we'll sell it to you for $1,000, not $28,000. I thought that was really, really interesting when I was watching kind of these videos of how they're now making an attempt to undercut high-end fashion labels. And that might be a little damaging to them. Now, granted, how do you take the swoosh off a set of Nikes? That's harder to do. But taking a little badge off of a Coach bag or a Fendi, jacket, that's easy to do. Easy to do. Do I declare my purchases with U.S. Customs? Yes. But here's the thing. You're allowed to, I forgot the number, you're allowed to bring in a certain amount of goods from Thailand. I have a receipt. So typically what I will do is I will have the tailor, I pay him, let's say, here's my usual purchase when I go to Thailand. For the men out there, you're going to just be like salivating, for those of you who wear suits. I get 12 French cuff shirts. Of course, I pick all the threads, the buttons, every style about it and materials. 12 French cuff shirts. I get 12 pairs of slacks, and I get 2 3-piece suits, so jacket, vest, and pants. And all of that will be $1,500 US. I'm sure it's gone up a little bit, but that's typically what I would negotiate with those people. For that, I would say whatever the limit was on the tariffs, and I forget not tariffs, for the import customs, whatever that was, I would say, let's say it's $800 is the maximum clothing I could bring in. I would tell them, make me a receipt for $800 US. So when customs would get me, I'd be like, yeah, I have the receipt here, and I open up my, my bag, and here's the receipt for the clothing, and they'd be like, okay, They're not going to nickel and dime that stuff. It's not like I'm bringing back clothing to distribute and start a new business, right? I'm bringing back, and by the way, I'm also bringing in, if you guys have not been to Thailand, maybe I should do a show on what to do when you go to Thailand. You literally go with like one long sleeve shirt, a t-shirt or two, a couple pairs of shorts, one pair of pants, a closed-toed shoes, and open-toed shoes, and then undies and socks as you want. You're going to buy everything there. So I go with a small little roller bag, and then when I'm there, I buy a nice big hard side roller bag, and I load that thing up with all the stuff I'm bringing back. Done, easy. Super cheap. Super, super, super cheap. Lee says, yep, I would go back to Vietnam to buy clothes and eat the food. Oh, all day long, man. That food is so good. I'll be John Wick, all black suits. You mean the Einstein or Mark Twain, one of those? It makes sense. Here's another little secret for you. So my really good friend who taught me all about, how to shop and barter and stuff in Thailand, when he gets his 3-piece suits made, you've got a jacket, vest, and pants that are all the same style and materials, right? You wear out your pants. It's just one of those things. Pants wear out over time. So it was awesome. He says, I get at least 2 pairs of pants for every suit jacket I get made. I was like, wow. I did not even think about that. Because once you ruin a pair of pants, they get ripped or stained or something, now you're going to look awkward with a suit jacket that doesn't match your pants. So, for an extra $20 or so, $15-20, he'd get another set of pants made, sometimes getting 3 pairs of pants. We got tuxedos made there last time we went. And so we have 3 sets of tuxedo pants that fit that jacket, but they're all slightly different. It's really cool. Anyway, I'm going off. Buy without the fashion labels to save 100%, Margaret. Me too. I would do that all day long. All right. What time is it? Oh, wow, 2:30. All right. So that was kind of it for my luxury brand, discussion. And thanks, Tim, for sending that in. I appreciate it. There's a lot of different brands that we didn't get a chance to mention today, and I'm sure some of them might be better opportunities. My take on it is this. When I look at some of these charts, I do think that there's a lot of opportunity here as an investor. When I look at the brands themselves and kind of, what they represent, I would look at LV, MHF, right? That's one that I'm certainly interested in. And main reason I'm interested in this one is it's just assortment of companies that are on that label. There's so many different brands here. Heck, I think this thing could probably survive just with Sephora. That store was an absolute madhouse when I was in there. It felt like I was at Coachella. was that many, people, yelling and grabbing stuff off the shelves and stuff. It was bizarre, really bizarre. Anyway, I do like the fact that it's down so much. You're kind of down near these lows, just above this gap fill that goes all the way back to 2020, right around $515. Yep. LVMUY, is that the one? Oops. I got the wrong symbol. Well, they're pretty much the same chart. Yeah, that's pretty much the same chart, although it's a different price structure. So this is thank you for that one, Lisa. What was that? What was the other one I was in? Let's see. LVMHF is what I was looking at. LVMHF. I just want to see what the difference is here. Huh. I'm not sure what the two differences are. These are both the OTC markets. One is, $540. Oh, okay, so it's a like a fragmented share. It looks like it's like 1/4 the cost. 544. Let's divide that by 3. LVMUY. Yeah, it's about 1/5. There you go. You need to buy a big gold. No, not a chance. I actually have plenty of costume jewelry. I don't wear jewelry. Another thing I learned when I was living in Milan, I had a blessed, amazing place in Milan. I got really lucky. In the company I worked for, my two friends that went over to Europe before me, they got a really nice apartment right downtown. And if anyone's ever been to Milan and gone to the Last Supper, it's called Cenacolo. It's the church that holds the Last Supper. That was 2 doors down from my building. And I could stand on my balcony and look on to the left, and I could see the train station. And I watched people get robbed all day long. All day long, I could watch people get robbed. And I told the police, and the police were just like, what are we going to do? The cops at the train station just did not care. Jewelry, if you travel internationally, is always a target. Like, when you travel, you should look like you're broke, homeless. Don't let anybody think you have any money. You're just become a target. Fancy bags and stuff like that, not a chance. When I go to Thailand, yes, I'm getting nice suits and things. I don't wear them while I'm there. They all go straight back to the hotel, get put in boxes and bags, and just shipped back. Look poor, man. Look poor, you're a target. Don't wear your big wedding rings or anything like that. Not good look. All right. So on that note, I think the trend on RMS was probably one of the better ones, just because it's on a nice uptrend and it's pulled back into this lower channel here. And I think we could probably add on. Yeah, something is wrong with my trading view, folks. I can't modify my time frames. You can see I can't change the setting panel doesn't pop up, so I can't even change this into a 200 period moving average. But I'm willing to bet if you put a 200 period moving average, we'd be pretty close to bouncing off it repeatedly. And that's a good, obviously, demand zone type of buy point. You have that nice pullback on aggressive sell-off. Great uptrend. I think that this would probably be a decent long-term hold based off of that chart. And then we just looked at LVMHF, which I like because of all the brands on it. I would argue that Kering and Tapestry as well have the kind of basket of brands I'm looking for, but the Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton is the winner for me on that one. Get right? No grills. You guys are torturing me today. No grills. All right, let me run through what happened out there today. We started off actually on a pretty nice note with Bitcoin, and I was a little disappointed the way it just started to slowly drift lower. Things were looking good for a bit. Let me get rid of some of these lines. I got too many lines drawn on here. There you go. So we actually have what you guys know as a shooting star on today's action with the Bitcoin futures, which is not good, down 1.18%. Not the best end of day result considering it was continuing on this nice uptrend. The good news for those of us who are bullish here is we didn't break the lows of yesterday's trading session. So the low on the futures market for Bitcoin yesterday, 83,205, and today we hit a low of 83,970. So as long as we keep making higher lows, that's fine. I expect there to be some splashy headline here in the coming weeks on Bitcoin regarding the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, but maybe a month or so will probably be when that big announcement comes out. Moving up the list, we had that 10-year yield today. Woo! Dropping quick. There was a pretty sharp rally up there on the talk that China's unloading their bonds, and now all of a sudden we're seeing yields drop back down. I mean, lots of volatility here. I really don't know what to say, honestly, with regard to this 10-year. My gut would say that we're going to continue to go lower on the yield, but that spike up, I mean, that is a really impressive move up that we had there over the past couple of weeks. I still have that measuring object from the breakdown. That is right here. And again, that target, I'm going to just take this line off here. We'll move it down. And I'll put an MO target just so we can know what that is and I can get that stick out of the way. Let's go there and we'll go moving average or measuring object target. Okay, so I'll leave that on there so we can have this for a while and see right there. And now we can see that it didn't even start to fill that big void. Still got a long way to go until we get down there. Andre says Besson is ready to buy back treasuries. I saw that. Yeah, that would certainly start to tweak the model a little bit. I'd like to talk to Bill Addis about that one and see what his thoughts are on having the Treasury start buying back treasuries. That just seems odd. But hey, we just had him on, Big Ed. We just had Bill Addis on a week ago. But yeah, China can oh no, we didn't have him on. I'm sorry. Last Friday I did a special for Trading Academy. So you guys can go look at the archives of that one, and maybe I'll see if I can get him on the show. But yeah, I was Larry Jacobson, myself, and Bill Addis did a special. We did talk a little bit about that as well. Uh-oh. I'll look at that, Lisa. NVDA. I've been looking at it because I want to buy it. Oh, down 4%? Not too bad. I'm going to have to take a break here. When we wrap up, I'll go check out what all the news is. But yeah, after hours down almost 4% for NVIDIA. Great. Give me some nice buying opportunities. I'd love it. I want more buying opportunities. Like I said, I'm keeping a bunch of powder dry for the Tesla earnings, but if NVIDIA has a big tank here, I'd be happy to load up on some NVIDIA. Get me sub 100. I'd be a happy man on that one. All right, let me keep moving up my list here before I go too long. Crude oil. Nothing really to talk about here with crude oil. As you can see, it's just been kind of stalling here for the past couple of days. Nothing noteworthy there. S&P 500, same thing. We've had that huge swing. I would argue that we were on this impulse move to the downside followed by upside corrections, and therefore we had this big impulse move down. We had that corrective phase right back up to overhead supply right around 55.09. Based off technicals, this probably should start to drift lower. Again, that's what the technicals tell you should happen. However, we all know that the power of Trump and the power of a tweet, the power of a tariff removal could erase any pattern that's out in the marketplace at any moment in time. So we'll keep our eyes on that one. Your Russell had a similar picture, hesitating but didn't make new lows today. And there's the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ actually positive territory, up 0.18, but the markets really did not have a great trading range today, which is great for me because I was busy teaching all day, so I didn't get a chance to make any new trades. Just watch positions that I'm in, which all expire on Thursday. Gotta love that. Short week. Gold, still flirting with those all-time highs. I would argue that you're in the makings of a bull flag formation right here. Right? If we look at all the pieces I've talked to you about bull flags, you've got that giant move to the upside. You have a slight decrease across the top. I'll create a copy or clone and move that down to the lows under today. And right around there, you got a bullish flag pattern. And the more it goes sideways, the more powerful that thing's going to be. If that's the case, and that does put a pretty lofty target on gold, that means gold could potentially be hitting like, ew, let's measure it out and see what that number would be, shall we? If we take that and go from a break, that means gold, probably 3,500 to 3,600. Woo! I'm sure you long gold people would love that one. And our last piece of broader news, the dollar index. I've been talking about this level that it dipped that 100 mark and has kind of been holding there. It does look poised for a rip to the upside here. So keep your eye on the dollar index. The question is, how high does it go? I don't think we'll see it get back up to 103. If you see that kind of move right there, that'd be a 2.62% move. It would bring it right back up to the downtrend, which for me would be fine. But I do think you'll see some move up here in that dollar index. So of course, a big move up in the dollar index could have negative impacts on the equity markets. So let's see. What else did I get here? Merlin, are you thinking more selling or testing the lows? Equities cannot get out cannot get below last week's lows. So my thinking is I got a couple different games in my head right now. As you know, I've got MicroStrategy, I have SMCI, and I don't really want those. It's been really, really good, premium-wise. So if you look here, I think Bitcoin is going to have a bit of a rally. I've been saying that, and it just has not happened. But here's MSTR. So MicroStrategy has certainly been ticking up. What I'd ideally like to have happen is it gets another week or so of rally, and then I'll exit MicroStrategy and be done with that. And I might play with a smaller position. I don't need to be in 600 shares of it. I'll probably go sub 500 probably my max on any position going forward. I actually have puts on it as well expiring Thursday, so I could be in even more MicroStrategy here. I think I had the 300s expiring Thursday, so I could be in a little bit more MicroStrategy. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I just like the premium. Again, you guys have heard my take many times now on the shenanigans I think are going on behind the scenes here with MicroStrategy and Coinbase and Fidelity with how they track and report their Bitcoin, and I don't feel comfortable with that. And then SMCI, this is probably going to take a big dump tomorrow because how tied it is to NVIDIA. And this is another one that I want to get out of. So I'm looking forward to getting out of those. I'd like to see a little bit of a rally. And ultimately what I want to be in is I want to be in solid, great companies. For example, NVIDIA, right? I'm fine. If I can get NVIDIA back at $84, sign me up. I'll be happy with that one. I'm waiting on Tesla till after that earnings next week, just because I think they're going to lower their guidance based off of the numbers and the news of these external events of fires and vandalism and people returning their Teslas and the mass trade-ins. However, there's a whole swath of people that are out there buying them to support. So that might be offsetting it. I don't know. Those numbers will tell. I just don't want to take that risk in front of it. Today, I was actually I was really looking to sell some puts on Amazon. I just didn't get the premium that I wanted, so I waited. We're down about 1.3%. But those are the three that I personally would want to have. Amazon, Tesla, NVIDIA. I'll be looking to build positions on market sell-offs here. So that's what I'm thinking, Steven. I want to kind of lighten my load on MicroStrategy and SMCI. I'd like to get out of SMCI altogether. I'm fine to keep some MicroStrategy and play with that, but I'd like to be holding bellwethers, absolute bellwethers. Yes, is 22nd? Yeah, it's right there. I thought it was 22nd. It'll be 22nd after market close. Of course, when we get closer, we'll talk about that one and get there. Okay, so other than that, what did we have today? We had some earnings announcements. Let me bring up your earnings for you so we can take a peek at who reported earnings, and then we'll go to Forex Factory and I'll show you my the economic calendar for tomorrow. Really, for the U.S., there's not a lot of exciting stuff happening this week. We just have a retail sales number, and that's pretty much it. So here is your economic calendar. Let me turn this off. I have it right now just on U.S. Let's remove the filter. So for Wednesday, you're looking at retail sales. So retail sales numbers is tomorrow. You also have the Bank of Canada, which is expected to keep rates right where they're at 2.75. So that's an important one. Our retail sales numbers will be tomorrow, 1 hour before the equity markets open, and they're expecting a pretty good pop in retail sales. And I understand why. I think what we're going to get are really good retail sales numbers for the next couple of months, because there's people like me that just went, you know what? I need a new pair of shoes. I'm going to go buy those. Just before these tariffs hit. So I bought a new pair of shoes, and I may actually go buy another pair of shoes because they're so dang comfortable. From Costco, of course. I'm not going, no name brands for me. No name brands for me. So that's your big stuff for tomorrow. On the earnings front, it is the midst of earnings season, and today you saw Bank of America report earnings. They beat. Johnson & Johnson beat. Citigroup beat. PNC. Pretty much everybody beat today. It was just a lot of winners out there, both before and after market. Even though JB Hunt beat on earnings, down 5.6%. Pretty much everything else except Johnson & Johnson was to the upside. Johnson & Johnson was down 0.48%, even though they beat earnings by 7%. Tomorrow, we get a little bit bigger. You've got Kinder Morgan, Abbott Labs, CSX, Alcoa, US Bancorp, Las Vegas Sands, The Travelers, Citizens Financial Group, and then really Thursday will be your first of the quasi-magnificent 7, which is going to be Netflix reporting earnings. We'll see how that one goes. And that's going to be it for your earnings and macroeconomics. We know who's making the money trading. The banks. Yeah, that's, they've all been saying that too, right, Big Eb? The banks have been saying our trading profits are killing it. Keeping them alive. Great. Johnson & Johnson having a hard time with the talcum powder lawsuit. I didn't know about that one, but Johnson & Johnson long-term, I'm a holder. We'll see. I don't own any of it, but I wouldn't mind owning that one long-term at the right price. Powell speaking tomorrow. I thought, let me go here. There were a couple FOMC member speaking tomorrow. Powell is... I've got Schmidt speaking. Oh, there it is. Powell speaking at 1:30. So Powell speaks at 1:30. That's the Economic Club of Chicago. Yeah, I had that in the Monday Morning Must-Knows. I just forgot it was coming out today or tomorrow. So 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So again, that'll be before market closes. So keep your eye on that one. All in all, I don't see any monster drivers of price. This will be an interesting one at the Economic Club, because the last one he went to was talking about AI parts. This is going to be getting grilled on the current state of the economy. And right now, I think it's really heating up as far as what is the Fed going to do. The inflation numbers are kind of saying, hey, you should be cutting rates. I know Powell's going to push back and say, no, hold on. Who does the graphics for a Monday Morning Must-Knows? You mean the thumbnail to start? The thumbnail, it's Lucy at Trading Academy. Yeah, I think it's AI. I love the AI. All right. Well, that's going to do it for me, everybody. I'm going to wrap up here. Quarter till. Man, they're early. Again, thank you to Tim for your question on the luxury brands. It made me look at that sector, which I did find interesting. Nothing there that I would look at and say, I've got to buy it. I might keep my eyes on that Louis Vuitton one, just because one of the things a mentor told me years ago, he says, if you're looking at buying something, go kick the tires of the product. So if you're looking at buying, let's say, Cheesecake Factory, go to the Cheesecake Factory. Go to a couple of them and see how that business is doing. I mean, if it's wall to wall and an hour wait out the door like Din Tai Fung, man, if Din Tai Fung goes public, I'm buying that one. That thing always has a 2-hour line. It's insane. If there's nobody at that place, well, maybe not the time to buy it. So I certainly think you want to kick the tires. And by going to Sephora and seeing how wild it was, made me think that there's still a lot of upside potential here for some of these luxury goods, particularly the makeup and cosmetic side, because that's where I was. Let's see. All right, that's going to do it for me, everybody. If you have things you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show or questions you want me to ask of my guests, because we're going to have John Rowland on the program tomorrow, we will be talking about commodities, markets, energy, crude oil, natural gas, all that kind of fun stuff. If you have questions for John Rowland, email me, send them on in at tradingacademy.com. Hit that like button. If you're new, hit subscribe, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.